I question, do children actually have the capacity to make lifelong permanent decisions about their bodies? And do they really understand what these interventions involve? I don't think they do. And I think we're doing a real disservice to young people, especially with this ideology. We see it coming into education. We see it being glorified in society with the fact that legitimate experts.
Yeah, she went there. Hello, friends. Welcome to Luke and Live. You here with Pastor James Devalon, and this is The Perspective. We are headed over to the Dr. Phill show for this one. This is an insightful one. A neuroscientist, okay? He's answering question about transgenderism and things like that. I think this is one of the first time that I hear someone publicly saying it like it really is, right? Without questioning anything, especially as a neuroscientist, okay? Someone in those positions. I've listened to Matt Walsh and others, activists and also conservatives speaking publicly, but when you hear people who are in the field of science talking, it brings joy to my heart. Now, by the way, there's a whole panel here. The panel is not going to be too happy with the truth, and you're going to get some really funny facial looking expression here. These people are defending transgenderism. I think there's also a detransitioner on the stage. Dr. Phill is doing some questioning. And then this neuroscientist came in and dropped the bomb in the room. And they were just shocked to discover that there is another story out there. You know, this transgender thing, I got to tell you, is something I'm very passionate about for a number of reasons. Is at the heart of our culture. It is literally the most significant thing that is going on within the culture of Americans today and many other places as well. And the thing is, it is a situation that is changing laws, it's changing the way we vote, it's changing perspective as well. And it demands our attention. This stuff is also coming in the church. And as a Christian minister, it's something that I need to be able to speak about in the most Christian way, while at the same time making my position be clear. So these are different aspects, and I got children as well. I got to have these discussions with them before they get, sucked into this stuff. But nevertheless, this is why you're seeing more videos coming in this channel talking about stuff like that. It is a conversation that needs to be had today because it is impacting our culture, whether you will like it or not, either for good or evil. But the thing is, it's here, and I think it is something that must be addressed. So let's take a listen to this woman here. She is going to drop a bomb in the room. Yeah. Without further ado, let us now get into the heart of the message. Link to the original video without my commentary is below as well. Let's check it out.
Doctor, so why do you think young people are being incorrectly diagnosed with gender dysphoria? And should those who are wait to get transitions?
Absolutely. There should be a longer period of time. And most importantly, there needs to be a proper assessment done. I really take issue with this narrative that children, quote unquote, know their true selves, or they know their gender identity if they believe that they're transgender, or that detransition is purely due to social stigma or due to transphobia. If you actually talk to detransitioners, as I have, you'll hear the reasons as to why they have chosen to detransition, why they have regret about their decisions, in many cases having undergone medicalization. There's so many other issues that these young people are struggling with, whether it is being on the autism spectrum. They have, many of them, if not all I've spoken to, have a history of sexual trauma. They are not comfortable with their sexuality if they are gay. They may have anxiety, depression, and in some cases, as in Ryan's case, if it's a young woman who reaches puberty, is not comfortable in her body, she thinks that because she doesn't like being sexualized by society, that means that she's actually a man, or she's so-called non-binary, even though there are only two genders. Even for young women who don't like having a period, they believe that that means that they're actually a man. And I question, do children actually have the capacity to make lifelong permanent decisions about their bodies? And do they really understand what these interventions involve? I
hope you're watching the facial expression in the room here. These facial expressions tells you everything you need to know. Okay, let's keep going. She's debunking and rebuilding. She's debunking and rebuilding. She is tearing a lot of things apart right now. A lot of things apart. I think behind this ideology is a lot of misconception that needs to be demolished, and truth needs to be rebuilt once again for these young people. I don't think young people deserve this. When you hear the story of the transitioners, what they've been through and what has happened to their bodies, the cutting, the mutilation, the so-called supposed reassignment surgery as it is styled today, it is wrong. It is wrong. And again, people can make their decisions, I understand. But when it comes to children, though, I don't know, man. I don't think that's a good idea. That's just not okay. God didn't create us to be butchered up in pieces by supposed experts who say they understand what's going on in you, when all the same time you become a product through which they get richer and richer, and you are left more miserable than before. I don't agree with that.
I don't think they do. And I think we're doing a real disservice to young people, especially with this ideology. We see it coming into education. We see it being glorified in society, with the fact that legitimate experts cannot speak about the science, that legitimate studies cannot be done. Actual science that is correct is being suppressed, is being denied, it's being called hateful. And so people are understandably terrified to talk about this. And if you are in the field, whether you're an academic, I mean, my reason for leaving academia is because I wasn't willing to stay quiet about this issue. If you do work within, say, academia, if you're a scientist, you cannot produce any research that goes against activist narratives, or they will completely destroy you.
That tells you a whole lot about the narrative as well, because it has to be protected um, by every means. Is this is like it's like an idol that's been built, and everyone has to bow. It's like literally a modern Dagon today. It becomes a god. It's like the modern version of Baal worship today, as it was in scripture time. So instead of addressing the matter, you can criticize, nor condemn, nor point finger at it, nor to say this is not okay. It's like whether you are in the scientific world, whether you are um, in politics, right? Whether you are a social activist, whether you are even a Christian, in religion, you need to bow the knees to Baal. Like literally, this ideology of the transition and also transgender, I believe is like the new version of modern idol and deities today that many people are just bowing the knees to. And if you don't bow to it, it's like you get all the name called, and you can be canceled for things, and the whole entire life could be destroyed. And regardless of the fact you are an expert at your field, they don't respect that, because this is a worship, this is a cult, this is something that demands your full and total absolute surrender, or else you're transphobic.
And what do you say to the parents of a child like Reese, who says, look, at 5 years old, he knew at the core of his soul who he was, and that it was not who he had been assigned at birth. What do you say to someone like that that is truly suffering, and goes through the steps in a cautionary fashion?
I think that intervention should be on a one-on-one case. So about the individual patient, it shouldn't be about activism. It shouldn't be about sweeping policy in either direction. But I feel right now, parents especially, they're being emotionally blackmailed with this narrative that unless their child transitions, that child is at a high rate of suicide, which is not true.
Exactly. The blackmailing is so horrible, because these parents are being told is either you're gonna have, a trans girl, or you're gonna have a dead son, and these parents are afraid, and as a result, they're surrendering to the mob, and the ideology wins them over. Um, and I've listened to another parent. I forgot where. I think it's trigonometry on their YouTube channel. They had a mother who testified of how wrong she was. I can maybe put a short clip of that, how wrong she was for transitioning her son. And she was just going through a segment of confession and exposing how she was misled by this thing, and how her kid wasn't even sure what he was doing, and the kid was saying, "Mommy, you did this to me." You know, in other words, I think this issue of child-centered parenting in our culture is also a problem, where we are raising our children according to our children's desires instead of being parents. We just going and feeding into their emotions, and we bowing the knees to everything that a child is asking for. It's not a good thing. I think we should be admonishing our children, disciplining them, raising them, instructing and guiding them in the way of life and making good decisions. But instead, we have a lot of parents today who are just saying a 5-year-old son feeling a particular way means that I need to transition my son. That's just crazy. What did other parents before do for their children in the past who felt that way? Or maybe they never even felt that way. But if they did, what makes you think this only solution is to transition the child? So there's a lot of stuff like that we got to talk about, but we got issues in this culture. We really do. We need help. We need the Lord.
The other thing is social transition is being sold as it's being sold by activists as being completely harmless. So this consists of a child changing their haircut, changing maybe their name and their pronouns, and
Totally agree. The social transitioning is closely related to medical transitioning, and also the way the school is patterning their language with the pronoun and everything is like once you social transition. So I think there's been a level of social transitioning back then, but the medical stuff connected to it now is like they're pushing these kids over to an edge, and it's sad to watch um because there's another group called the detransitioners. You need to listen to their voice because they're crying out.
dressing like the opposite sex. And this is seen as just a way for them to explore it. But the thing is, from a research perspective, social transition, even though it doesn't involve medical transition, is associated with going on to medical intervention. And from there, going on, including cross-sex hormones and surgery. So in a way, it sets a child down this path because it makes it more difficult for the child to say, oh, I made a mistake. It's also very shameful for a child to have to say, I've been making everyone in my life call me this new name and use these new pronouns, and I was actually wrong about that. Children also receive so much attention and praise nowadays for identifying as anything other than their birth sex. And we see this with young people.
Look at their face. The thing is, truth is coming at them, but they're having a hard time accepting it. I listened to, I saw a girl who posted something on Twitter. She said, I transitioned, well, not a girl, it's a boy who transitioned into a girl. She said, I transitioned into a girl and I'm now making $200,000 a month. I think it's on TikTok and other platforms as well. So there is the attention that they're getting, there is the financial gain. It seems like there's a system that is pushing these kids toward this ideology. There's a community that accept them, especially when the loneliness and the mental health issues are so prevalent in our culture. So I think the transgender community kind of took on and it becomes like a way of escape for some of these kids, or it becomes a way of them finding new friends and being accepted by a culture or a community and things like that as well. There are different aspects connected to it. So I think that some of these kids, they just do it for either the attention, they do it just to be accepted, to be loved, to be part of something, right? So how many of them actually believe that they are a girl? How many of them actually believe that they are a boy? I think it might not be as many as we think they are. I think some of them are doing it for many other reasons apart from the fact the way they feel. But even the way you feel is still not good enough reason for you to make such a decision, because feelings are fleeting, man. You may feel one way today and next day you feel some type of way, a different way. So you cannot always depend on the way you feel. And I think as some of them are maturing into a certain age, they are having better chances or better opportunities to rethink their feelings. And I think our culture is not giving them that opportunity to make these decisions. All right, let's let her finish now.
Nowadays for identifying as anything other than their birth sex. And we see this with young people. 20% of Generation Z identifies as LGBT plus. So young people are incentivized. I don't believe this is purely due to social acceptance. There's no way that 1 in 5 young people identifies as something other than their birth sex. That's ridiculous to me. So the fact that this is being not only it's being pushed in education. I mean, that's the issue I have, is that there's
1 in 5 are starting to identify as something different than what the birth supposedly they were assigned at birth. I don't know what that even means anyway. But nevertheless, all right, let's just go with the verbiage. I've said this before in my channel. This had to be the largest evangelistic outreach ever. Like, I'm telling you, as Christians, and we trying to do outreach, trying to do prophecy seminars and things like that, and marriage seminars, reaching people in the community. I mean, we can put out hundreds and flyers and trying to find different means and ads and things like that. We might get 20 or 40 people to show up. By the time the meeting is over, there might be 8 of them left, and maybe 2 might choose to join the church, or 3. I don't think there's ever been this much of effectiveness in an outreach as we now see being done by the transgender movement. It's like it's the greatest move ever to impact the world and the youth, the greatest, most powerful, effective sort of soul winning method into the ideology that I've ever seen. When I look at that, I said, wow, this is more powerful than the church. This is more powerful than any other things in the world. I think the only other thing that I will say was as effective was the information concerning C19 and the inoculation and everything. That was also a serious outreach because it got the world's attention, and everybody needed to bow. Over 70% of the world kind of bowed their knees to that, to the magic portion, or the Fauci ouchie. That was powerful stuff as well. But I think the transitioning stuff with the transgenders and everything, it's just amazing how many kids are just falling forward. That is crazy, man.
It's not an objective approach. It's very much about there's only one right outcome, and if you don't follow that outcome, then you're in trouble.
Okay, I got what you're saying. You think it's a gateway and puts them on the path.
Absolutely.
Do you have a story?
Powerful. It's sad, man. My heart breaks for these kids, man. We're gonna have a group of young children not knowing who they are. They're gonna have a hard time discovering themselves and everything, and it's sad. It's sad. This is what our society has done. I think five, or maybe if the Lord spare our life to see 20 years, 20 something years from now, we're gonna look back at this stuff and we're gonna be like, Lord have mercy. What have we done? Or 20 years from now, things are gonna be so much worse that we might be having another discussion about another degree of some of that stuff. Who knows? But I think the results are almost in. We are seeing changes. People are waking up to the discussion. And I'm hoping that, some of these kids, they will give an opportunity to life. 18 years old. That's it. I mean, if it was up to me, I would outlaw the thing completely. But if you say 18 years old, just like 18 years old it takes to buy cigarettes and everything else, you can't go to the club until you're a certain age, which I totally understand that. So if that's the case, I will say, leave it at a certain age. And if the person still feels doing that as an adult, you're on your own, you're grown. You do your thing and you live with the consequences. But a kid, a child, underage, who is doesn't even have proper judgment, their frontal lobe doesn't even grow till fully grown, develop until 26. Come on now, have mercy. Let's not do that. That is not okay. It's gonna hurt them, and I think some of these kids, there's gonna be a lot of lawsuit in the future. There's gonna be a lot of lawsuit in the future. We're gonna see a lot of hurt people, a lot of broken people, a lot of families torn apart as a result of some of this stuff. But here we are today. Fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, bring them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. The most significant counsel I can give to parents is to raise your children in a nurture and admonition of the Lord. I think this is where we lost it, man. This is where we dropped the ball. This is why I share this verse over and over again. You know, unfortunately, we have children being raised without a knowledge of God in this country, without a knowledge of truth that is based on the Bible. And when that truth is departed from the heart, anything and everything comes in. And this is what's killing us today, is that a lack of faith in God's word is destroying the world today. And we're raising children without a knowledge of God. And I think as parents too, we gotta act right. We gotta walk righteously. We gotta do the right things in front of our kids. They're paying attention to us. When we're acting like hypocrites, it's not a good thing either. Yeah, that's where I stand with that. So comment below, share your thought perspective with me on this video. Until next time, and as always, remember to look unto Jesus, to live by faith. Like and subscribe to the page, and I'll see you